Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ms. Rickfelder coming to you today with quotients that include 0. So this is still part of the fluently divide multi-digit numbers using the standard algorithm. So this is basically just sort of like a special case scenario, or the ones that you guys normally have problems with when there's a 0 in the answer itself. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we have here today. You want to first start by heading the next blank page in your composition notebook with 6.ns.2. And then you also want to have division quotient includes 0. Then you want to write the problem and the word divide, and then you do need to write what I'm writing here. So does 75 go into 60? 75 does not go into 60, so I wrote no. And then you can see that I underlined the 75 and the 60. So remember, we first start by looking at the 60 because the 75 is 2 digits. So we look at the first 2 digits of the answer, or the dividend, sorry. So now we're going to look at 602. Okay, so for 602, and let me make that little period there a little bit more noticeable. So for 602, we're going to look and we're going to say, okay, 75 goes into 602 about how many times? So if we look just at the 7 and then we look at the 602 as a 60, then 7 times 6 is 42, 7 times 7 is 49, 7 times 8 is 56. So 56 is pretty close to 602, so let's go ahead and see if that works out. We're going to do that multiplication off to the side, so you should have your multiplication off to the side as well. So I should see that on all of your papers when you're working on those line papered worksheets. So you get 600, so that is the number that will go underneath. So we're going to do the official multiplication portion where we do 75 times 8 equals 600. Then we're going to, of course, do the subtract, which is 602 minus 600. So you get 2 left over. And now we're going to do the bring down step where I just dropped that 7 down in pink right there. So you can see that step right there. Now what we need to ask ourselves, so this is where we would normally repeat. So now what we really need to look at is, what are we going to do with that 27? So I'm going to change slides, update my math problem, so it's the same problem over here. So now we say, well, how many times does 75 go into 27? So, well, we know that 75 doesn't go into 27, right? So that's when we have to have a 0. So notice I wrote the word 0 there, and I said, now you need to tell the quotient that 27 goes into 75 0 times. So you do that by writing a 0 just above the 7, just like we've done here. So you want to make sure that you write that 0 just above the 7. And then it says, but now you're out of numbers to drop down. And you still have that 27 sort of like a remainder, so you don't want to have a remainder. So now you need to add the decimal 0. So you can see that I added a decimal in the quotient right after that red 0, a decimal in my dividend right after the 7, and then a 0. And I dropped that 0 down, so now we have 270. So what you can also see is you have double arrows going down to the same line. Do you see that, where the 7 and the 0 are both going down to the same line? So one trick that you can use to make sure that you're doing the correct division when you have 0 in your quotient is when you see those double arrows going down to the same line, that's the note I've written here, that's your reminder that your answer should have a 0 in it, okay? So this is your hint. You want to make sure that your notes look just like the ones that you see here. And it says, since we had to bring down another 0, we repeat the steps. So now we find out how many times 75 goes into 270. All right, so now you see where we're starting that again. It says, how many times does 75 go into 270? If I think about 7 and 27, it's going to be about 3, because 7 times 3 is 21. So I'm going to do that multiplication off to the side. I see I get 225. So officially, I'm going to multiply and get 225, and then I'm going to subtract that from the 270. So now you're left with 45 left over. Since you've already added that decimal in the dividend and then the 0 after it, you can continue to add zeros as long as you would like to. You don't have to do anything different. So now we're going to go ahead and bring down another 0 that we just added. So now we're going to find out how many times does 75 go into 450. So we repeat those steps again. Okay, and as you can see here, we've got how many times does 75 go into 450? Maybe about 550, hold on, let's see, 5 or 6 actually, sorry about that. So now you can see where I've tried both 75 times 5 and 75 times 6. So you can see that 75 times 5 wasn't enough, so I tried 75 times 6 and I got 450, which is exactly what we need. So now we're going to do the multiplication. We're going to do the subtraction. 450 minus 450 is 0. So now we have no remainder. So this is actually a terminating decimal. So this problem is done. You get a 0 at the end, and that's what it's called, terminating decimal. So you want to add that note there. All right, so you can see that I've added that here. So as you can see, now it's going to be your turn. I've got this little bird up here. He's doing a little fist bump. So you want to pause the video in just a moment, and you want to go ahead and work out 2,085 divided by 94. So you want to make sure that you pause the video now, because I'm about to go on to the answer. So you don't want to see the answer yet. You want to work the problem out on your own. So go ahead and do that now. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you have the answer all set up there. So now let's go ahead and check. So with my problem, you're going to see it kind of going pretty fast here. We're going to go ahead and just go through it so that you can see each of the different pieces. You can see the multiplication off to the side. You want to check line by line to see if yours looks any different. So we're going to go down one more time here, blah, 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 blah. All right. So as you can see, I came up with the answer 30.159. And remember, because we're rounding to the nearest hundredth, you're going to go all the way to that 9 in the thousandths place so that you know whether or not the 5 stays a 5 or goes up to a 6. So 30.159, you can see me draw the back door there in blue, and then see who's that knocking on the back door. And so your final answer here should be 30.16. So hopefully you did that correctly. If you did not come up with 30.16, you want to check your work and see which line you made the error on. And let's go ahead and go on to our problem of the day. This is problem of the day number 3. Again, it should be on a half sheet of loose leaf lined paper. Right now, you want to write your name, date, and period in the top right corner of that paper. And you need to show all your work for this one problem. You need to round to the nearest hundredth properly. And you want to put a box around your answer. And remember, you just want to drop that in the basket that's under the television that says problem of the day. Be sure that you've labeled it with problem of the day number 3. And that will show me that you have also watched the video and you are working on your problems. Have a great evening, and toodles.